Buenas tardes a todos, bienvenidos. Para una mejor experiencia, les solicitamos por favor que mantengan sus micrófonos muteados. Todo el material que presentaremos puede ser utilizado para difusión y promoción. Muchas gracias y que disfruten del evento.
Silencio, por favor. Giorgio está grabando los nuevos episodios de Alienígenas Ancestrales.
No se pierdan los nuevos episodios de Alienígenas Ancestrales solo por History.
En muchos lugares de la Tierra existen impresionantes reliquias de épocas pasadas. Construcciones imponentes que parecen desafiar la tecnología que hoy conocemos. Se abre un nuevo capítulo para descubrir las evidencias sobre seres de otros mundos que habitaron nuestro planeta por miles de años. Alienígenas Ancestrales. Por History.
Buenas tardes, gracias y bienvenidos una vez más a estos eventos virtuales con History Channel. Ahora tenemos el placer y el honor de compartir con ustedes a nada más y nada menos que a Giorgio Tsoukalos, que va a presentar con nosotros la nueva temporada, la temporada 15 de la serie más exitosa de todos los tiempos, Alienígenas Ancestrales o Ancient Aliens, como las conoce todo el mundo. Vamos a compartir un video antes de conversar con Giorgio.
4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition, and we have liftoff.
Voyager's passage by Jupiter accelerated it towards a close encounter with the planet Saturn. It will plunge on, leaving the solar system and becoming an interstellar spacecraft, destined to wander forever the great ocean between the stars. Voyager bears a message for any alien civilization it may one day encounter in interstellar space.
If you believe we have crashed craft, do we have the bodies of the pilots?
Biologics came with some of these recoveries.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human.
Restos orgánicos no humanos.
Restos de naves extraterrestres.
Wir kommen zurück, wir beschäftigen uns jetzt mit UFOs und Aliens.
De la présence des ovnis.
Congresso sobre OVNIs.
UFO に関する公聴会が開かれ。
Divulgando mucha información sobre el tema de los ovnis.
Was this the first time that you encountered a UFO?
Yes.
What was your general attitude on the UFO discussion before that?
I wasn't a UFO person. I wasn't watching History Channel.
History Channel es el canal que más ha profundizado en este tema y el que le ha dado más credibilidad. Alienígenas Ancestrales nos ha venido documentando de esta presencia desde hace milenios en la Tierra.
There was always this idea that if the truth is finally revealed that aliens are real, that the planet would break out in panic. And that has not happened. The reason for that is because we come from out there. They are our parents. This idea that sometime our DNA was changed is something that we still talk about today in the ancient astronaut theory.
Alienígenas.
Bienvenido, Giorgio. How are you? How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much. Great to be on the show again with you, Cesar. How have you been?
We have been doing great, but so many things have happened since our last conversation. So let's just go straight to the point like everybody else wants here. Now is not only the US Congress, everybody in every single country, in every single newscast, in every single media outlet is talking with non-stop about the existence of other kind, and also everyone is mentioning UFOs are amongst us. What Giorgio, the authority, the key authority on UFOs and ovnis and aliens, have to say about it, and how you incorporate this new evidence as part of your hit series on history.
Yeah, no, I mean the last 3 months have been absolutely extraordinary. We're the first time ever we've had congressional hearings in the U.S. Congress in which someone, David Grush, has come forward and said that the U.S. government is in possession of extraterrestrial, not only craft, but also non-human biologicals. And, that to me is incredible. It's something that me and my colleagues have talked about for the past 20 years that, we are not alone in the universe and perhaps they're already here. And this is something that we've always explored. And the fact that now these stories are discussed on the front page of all the newspapers and on the front page of all the websites across the world, these are the most exciting times to be alive. And I think that ancient aliens had something to do with this because it's a paradigm shift. We are entering a new paradigm of thought where things that from a long time have always been considered as fringe, all of a sudden, because we now have the receipts, more and more videos are coming out, more and more government workers are coming out and saying, hey, something is going on up in our skies.
What do you think that it is that finally no one is afraid and everybody's proud to say, I have seen aliens, I know they're among us, and I have the evidence around the globe? What is that? Why everybody's coming out with new evidence every day?
Well, I think because it asks the most profound question that we've ever could ask ourselves. Where do we come from? How do we get here? Why are we here? And above all, where are we going? And so if life would only be restricted to planet Earth, that would be, yes, it would be wonderful, it would be interesting. But this idea that life is teeming out there and that there perhaps are other intelligences out there, that to me also is incredibly exciting because who knows, maybe there is some sort of an intergalactic club out there that one day soon we'll be able to join. But until that time, let's make sure that we all get along on our planet between our species. So we'll see when that happens.
Giorgio, can also, as a follow-up question, everyone is talking about artificial intelligence, like the new big thing. So my question is, it is true what everyone is saying in the news, that thanks to artificial intelligence, we will be able to understand any language from, as you called them before, our parents from another planets?
Yeah, look, I think that AI is definitely a tool that could be used in the search for extraterrestrial intelligences. In fact, with that AI tool, you see there's a lot of data that has to be crunched. And with AI, it's potentially possible to crunch even more data. In fact, there used to be a program in the 1990s, the late 1990s, early 2000s, when the internet came along publicly for the first time, or really when it became popular. There was a thing called SETI at Home, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence at Home, and it was a screensaver. And that screensaver would be crunching numbers in the background while that screensaver is on. So perhaps an AI technology can be used in order to contrast and compare different data. For example, I've always said that there is a connection with ancient languages. And there are books out there that show that some ancient languages clearly have some type of an origin. And some have suggested it's ancient Hindu, the Sanskrit texts. And it would be interesting to perhaps use AI to see if there are even bigger connections as far as language is concerned. So yes, for certain things, I think AI can be used as a tool. This idea that it will take over our lives, I'm not so sure. I hope not, because we've all seen the Terminator and we all learned how that turned out. So we should definitely, exercise caution.
Which we will do. Now we're going to invite a special guest today. Max Thompson is one of the producers of Prometheus, the great production house behind the success of Ancient Aliens in History Channel. So let's welcome our friend Max Thompson.
Hi, Cesar. Thank you so much for having me today. It's great to talk about the upcoming season, and we're all really excited that this show is still going on after 13, 14, I guess 14 years now. So 2009 was when it premiered.
So let's go directly to the point then. We need to know how you guys were able to keep it fresh after 15 seasons and more than 228 episodes. How you do it, guys?
Honestly, I didn't even know it was 228 episodes. I knew it was a lot. I knew it was somewhere around there, but it was, as people, some of the maybe longtime viewers might know, that this was never intended to even be a series at all. It was going to be a 2-hour standalone special, and everyone told us no one's going to watch it. And, here we are after 200 plus episodes. And the reason we've been able to do that, I think, and the reason that it's still fresh is because there's so much that we don't understand, that's so much that's unexplained. I think people have a tendency to think that, today with science and with technology and with everything that we've been able to explore, that we have all the answers, and we have very few. Really, in the when you look at the scope of everything that's been happening in our world, and also the things that have been discovered over the last you were talking about technology with LiDAR and with ground penetrating radar, things that have been found in the past decade or so, where they're finding lost Mayan cities, they're finding new pyramids under the sands of Egypt. There's constantly things that are being found, and even we are not even close to exhausting all the things that are above ground that we already knew were there. There are structures that I find out about that I'm surprised I've never heard of, that are megalithic structures that exist in far-flung places that I've never heard of. But there are constantly more mysteries to be solved, and also with each new mystery, you see new connections to things that we've explored before, that provides new information. Just in the same way that the congressional hearings and these whistleblower claims and new things that are coming out are giving us insights into the modern UFO phenomena, as well as Navy videos and things like that. The same thing is happening when it comes to evidence of what went on in the ancient past. It's not like everything's just out there and now it's time for us to solve it. No, there's new pieces being found. There's new dating of sites that were thought to be, maybe 2,000 years old that are 4,000 or 5,000 years old. So keeping it fresh, and also, Giorgio and other contributors like William Henry and David Childress and Travis Taylor, Linda Moulton Howe. I could go on and on, but they come to us all the time with ideas and with their research, and really help us to make sure that we're constantly providing new information. And so yeah, I feel like amazingly, after 15 seasons, we haven't run out of material or even come close.
But Giorgio, it's no secret anymore that what it used to be called a niche group, a selected group of fans, now is a larger and larger and more global audience following not only your version of the truth, is what is now called the real truth. The truth is out there. So now there is newfound credibility, a newfound group of fans of Giorgio and the show. How do you feel about it, and how you include all these new findings into the narrative of the new seasons to come?
Look, I mean, it's tremendous, and one thing has to be said, that the reason why the show is still on the air is because of you guys, the watchers, the viewers. Because without the audience, the show would not be here. So you guys continually tune in week after week after week. So the fact that that has happened, you know, our debt is we owe it to you, the fans. And so, you know, this is truly the most amazing time, because like I said earlier, 15 years ago, or what Max just said, you know, this began as a 2-hour standalone documentary. And, you know, and then there was one season of 5 2-hour shows. And when they came to Kevin with season 2, Kevin was like, "What, are you trying to kill me? There are no more pyramids." And Kevin called me and says, "Buddy, do you still have any more pyramids left?" And I said, "Sure." And, you know, so, and what Max said earlier too is that things have happened over the last 10 years. Technology has improved. And the fact that we now have congressional hearings, I think that is the reason why, that there was this paradigm shift over a 10, 12-year period where people, like you were saying, that, you know, it was a niche. Well, this niche has grown into a fairly large community of like-minded people. And I think it's absolutely wonderful that we no longer have to, you know, hide or speak behind closed doors when we talk about UFOs. Because back in the day, I remember this clearly, and I know all of us right now watching this know that only a few years ago, had you talked about UFOs, you'd be like, "Ah, yeah, UFOs, whatever, just a joke." And here we are with congressional hearings. So the tides are changing, and what's happening right now is absolutely sensational.
We have come a long way, my friend, indeed. Now we are going with the Q&A from our media outlets around Latin America. The first questions come from Colombia. Nicolai Abril from NTN Colombia.
Hello, Giorgio. Thank you for interacting with us. It's interesting you just mentioned the we've seen already the congressional hearings on this topic, and we've just learned U.S. is in possession of non-human biologicals. The Pentagon has just released a new website on UFOs with a few videos and pictures labeled as unsolved or unclassified. Several congressmen believe that this website, being full of old content, it's unuseful, and they call on the government to publish what they really have. In July, a former intelligence official told Congress that the Pentagon has been hiding alien evidence. Despite all this growing interest that we've seen this year, is the government still spending money and effort to prevent us from seeing their real files, or is there a real interest to unveil?
Well, I think there really is an interest, because up until a few weeks ago, you know, when I asked around, because when the first hearing was, the question was, you know, where can commercial pilots or Air Force pilots, where can they go and report their sightings? And there really wasn't something out there. In the last couple of weeks, Arrow actually published a website where such a reporting process is now possible. So if there would not be an interest, then I don't think that these investigations would be going on. And here's the truth of the matter, is that, you know, we're now saying that these investigations have only happened since 2017. But the truth is that these investigations into the extraterrestrial question have happened since the mid-1940s, and perhaps even earlier. And so clearly there's a vested interest in this whole topic. And I, for one, welcome that, you know, these different hearings are being held right now, or that Arrow is creating this website, because back in the day there weren't any of these things done. And so the fact that now these hearings are happening, many people say, "Oh, it's nothing, it's no big deal, or it's not any news." Well, it is, because you and I, the viewers, or the people who are interested in the show Ancient Aliens, of course we love following this topic. But, you know, the average man or person on the street doesn't really care or necessarily know about a lot of UFOs. So those are the people for whom these hearings are, so that the whole populace, the whole population sort of gets, I don't want to say conditioned, But, that's what we're doing. That this whole idea of extraterrestrials does not freak out people. And I think that we are in this time right now where, we're familiarizing ourselves with this thought that we're not alone in the universe.
Thank you, Giorgio. Thank you, Nikolai. Now we are going to Diego Reyes from RCN, Colombia. RCN Radio, Colombia.
Giorgio, saludos en Colombia. Mi pregunta
Hola,
es
¿cómo
la
están?
siguiente, la voy a hacer, un abrazo, la voy a hacer en español. En la antigüedad vimos cómo se
Muy bien, gracias.
cómo se han construido pirámides como herencia de esos alienígenas ancestrales. Entonces hubo monolitos, pirámides. En la Edad Media de pronto se erigieron catedrales. En la actualidad, no sé, estoy como imaginando un Empire State o hay edificaciones que tengan que ver, que tengan esa herencia alienígena hoy por hoy que tú hayas descubierto.
So I would like to please use this opportunity to answer your question twofold. First of all, the show Ancient Aliens and myself, we have never said, at least from the lips of my lips or the lips of the narration of Robert Clotworthy, the show has never said that the pyramids of Egypt were built by aliens. What we have said is that the knowledge with which the pyramids were built was imparted to the ancient Egyptians by the so-called guardians of the sky. And there is a big difference because, of course, the pyramids were built by our ancestors. Many of, or all of the ancient structures were built by human beings. It wasn't aliens. They never dirtied their hands. But what the ancient texts are saying, that the engineering knowledge, the building knowledge with which these things were built, that knowledge was imparted by the so-called extraterrestrials. Now, as far as your question of today, what buildings do I think today may have some type of an alien connection? I have no idea. Today, City Hall in Roswell. Because Roswell, there was something that happened in 1947. So I have no idea. But the idea is correct that many of the ancient structures were built by humans in reverence or in worship of the so-called gods, but that the ancient monuments were built by extraterrestrials. So you hear it again, and now it's live. I have never said that, and the show has also never suggested that. So, I don't know where this information comes from. But great question.
The message is loud and clear. Thank you, Diego. Thank you, Giorgio. Now we're going with Daniel Casita from Canal Tech Brazil.
Hi, Giorgio.
Daniel.
Thank you for your time today. Is my sound good?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So my question's about interstellar objects and Avi Loeb's claims about them. So what do you think of Avi Loeb's claims that Oumuamua, the interstellar objects that passed by in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, is an alien ship, even though the entire scientific community refutes this? Do you think his insistence on this subject makes sense or not? Thank you.
Well, thank you. That's a great question. I don't think it is untrue that the entire scientific community disagrees with Avi, because there are scientists and astronomers who are on his side. So it is interesting. Now, the idea that Oumuamua may be an extrasolar spacecraft, a type of probe, is to me an interesting one, because it is something that has been proposed by us, that we one day will send out probes to go out there. And the question that I always have is, are we really the first? And the answer to that is a resounding no. We're not the first. It's been done before, not by our species, by other extraterrestrials on other planets in the past. We are an offspring. And so what Dr. Avi Loeb, for example, has suggested is that someone has sent out an interstellar probe that has gone from from solar system to solar system and is collecting data. Now, of course, this is a speculative idea, but it is not a crazy one, because if you take an object that has traveled and you convert it into something that can be a probe, well, what a better way to explore your quadrant of the galaxy than by using a quote-unquote natural object to go explore. I mean, this is, by the way, something that has been also proposed way before Avi Loeb. And as far as the spherules that are concerned that he has found at the bottom of the ocean, I think to dismiss this first off, that, oh, it's just spherules that have been found before as industrial waste, that to me is not a scientific approach. I think the scientific approach is what Avi Loeb does, and he actually went out there, he recovered these spherules, and now they're being investigated. That is science, and I wish Avi the very best. He is doing amazing work.
And now from Argentina, we have Nicolás Lencina, La Voz del Interior.
Hola César, muchas gracias. Hola Giorgio, Max. Esta pregunta puede ir tanto para Giorgio como para Max. Han recorrido el mundo a lo largo de todas las temporadas y preguntarles por un lugar tradicional con respecto al avistaje de ovnis que tenemos acá en Córdoba y, bueno, en Argentina y en Córdoba, que es Capilla del Monte. Acá está ubicado el Cerro Uritorco. Preguntarles si está en el radar de ustedes y si alguna vez se pensó en venir acá, en grabar algo acá con esta temática. Es un lugar muy particular, tradicional, que le da una energía muy particular.
Giorgio? Or Max?
No, I have not heard of this place. Thank you very much. But Max, go ahead.
Yeah, I have not heard of it either. As I had said earlier, it's, we're constantly finding out about new locations like this that are maybe not the first thing you find when you do a Google search or something that's come across our desk. So no, I always love to hear about new places like that, because that's a place that I've never heard of. And we certainly, as we're gearing up for the next season, I'll put it on our list, because it's like I said, it's always great to find a place that we have not investigated, or a place that neither Giorgio nor myself has heard of is truly rare. So yes. Yeah, it's exciting.
So we're going to provide you with that proper information from Uruguay, strictly Argentina, directly to your hands. Now we are going with El Tiempo, Edwin Romero, Colombia.
Gracias, César. Hola, Giorgio. Hola a todos los que están acá en esta rueda de prensa. Bueno, básicamente mi pregunta es similar a la de Argentina. No sé si, Giorgio, Colombia obviamente no ha sido como la excepción en lo que respecta a los temas relacionados con la presencia de objetos en el cielo y pues de seres que obviamente no se puede explicar como tal su existencia de manera convencional. ¿Tú de pronto has tenido la oportunidad o has escuchado sobre algún caso relacionado con ovnis en Colombia o con seres que no son, pues, obviamente humanos?
So Colombia is one of my favorite places on the planet, because there are UFO sightings today, but the reason why personally I'm interested in Colombia is because I wear this, you can't really see it on the camera, but I'm wearing this pin right here. It is from Colombia. It's from the region of present-day Tolima, the Quimbaya region. And this pin that I'm wearing is part of a cult back in the day where they created little gold objects that they put inside tombs. And in the early 1990s, two engineers from Germany made a little model about this big. They threw it up in the air and it flew. So that means that this little pin features aerodynamic shapes. And, many times archaeologists are saying, because they found hundreds of thousands of little animals, mosquitoes and birds and fish and flying fish and certain, things that you find in the animal kingdom. But 17 that were found look like modern day planes. And so, yes, there are multiple gold objects, countless, that were found that look like birds and fish and frogs, but those 17 look like modern day planes. And so our question is it possible that the Colombian ancestors long ago saw something up in the sky, and if they saw aviation, then my assessment is, or the assessment of the ancient astronaut theory is, that aviation was extraterrestrial.
Thank you for a great insight.
And
now we're going. Sorry?
If I can just add really quickly, I've come into contact recently with an archaeologist she's an American archaeologist, but she does most of her work in Colombia. Carolyn Whitehill is her name, and she has been talking to me about shooting in Colombia and investigating sites in Colombia because during her time there, she's a geologist as well, and she's been doing studies there where she said, interacting with the indigenous people, they tell her, we see things coming down from the sky all the time, especially in the mountain regions. They say that these are places. She's like, if you talk to anyone up there, she said, they'll tell you, oh yeah, they come here. We see them all the time. They come here. This is their, it's written. You can see it in the petroglyphs in the caves and on the mountainsides, and that this is a hot spot for UFO activity. So yeah, Colombia is a place that, in addition to some of the ancient evidence, there's some really interesting things that I've heard recently in terms of it being a place to see UFOs. So, perhaps in the upcoming seasons, we'll be able to shoot something there. But it's exciting to hear that that's again from an archaeologist and geologist, that this is, she said this is what she hears everywhere she goes.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going with Jorge Luis Surkov, an influencer and producer from the Maussan Expedition Files for History Latin America. Jorge Luis.
Hola, ahí estoy. ¿Me escuchan? Hi, Giorgio.
Hey, Jorge, how have you been? Long time. You good?
Yes, long time. La pregunta es si estás al tanto que esta semana en México se va a hacer una audiencia pública en el Congreso con muchas personas hablando del fenómeno ovni de todo el mundo. ¿Cuál es tu reflexión sobre esto?
Yes, I saw something. I don't know the details, but I saw something with my colleague Jaime Maussan that the Mexican Congress is having a hearing. So I wish everyone in Mexico my very best. And this is all very interesting and exciting that now also a hearing is happening in the Mexican Congress. And I think all Congresses around the world should have hearings like this. And it's about time. And I wish Jaime Maussan my very best, and you too, in covering all this event.
It's going to be a domino effect, global scale, for sure. Now we're going with Chile. Chile Pulimetro sent the following question. Why all of a sudden everyone is interested in going to the moon once again? It is because of scientific reasons, or is because everyone is trying to look for something that could be leftovers of evidence about life in another planets?
Personally, I think it is both. I think it is a exploration of it's a scientific exploration of perhaps the origin of life. Not just perhaps, but it is an exploration of the origins of life. And the moon has always been interesting. The only reason why we never went back was exclusively a budget issue. I don't think it was anyone up there saying you cannot come back. So, I'm excited that we are going back to the moon. And in fact, I'm even more excited that the private industry, the private sector is involved in this, because there is way more money in the private sector than in the public sector. And so, who knows what will happen in the next 10 years? I mean, these are very exciting times. And because once we start building or finish the International Space Station and then build, I was told, a space station even around the moon. And then from there, we'll travel on to Mars. So these are all very exciting times. and I think they are in the name of science. So I think it's wonderful. It's very exciting.
Now, Giorgio, we have a question that we cannot avoid. TV and show is asking. Today we commemorate 20 years of September 11. You know about conspiracy theories everywhere. If it's true or not, then maybe if we have communication with aliens, we could prevent it, tragedies like that. And if you believe that it could be some kind of ovnis or UFOs presence in that particular event, do you think was any kind of presence from another planet during those events, or we can prevent those tragedies if we would be able to get communication with our parents?
Yeah, no, I don't think so, because in that regard, while many of the viewers might know that I am not a subscriber of the prime directive idea. The prime directive means that if you encounter a lower type civilization with lower access to technology or a lower understanding of technology, you do not interfere with them. And in regards to the extraterrestrial question, that is us. We are the primitive ones. And so, this whole thing about 9/11 and UFOs and things. These are all things, first of all, above my pay grade. Second of all, no, I don't think any aliens were involved with 9/11. And, not everything is a conspiracy. That's the other thing, that, these days, everything has become a conspiracy. And, that's simply not the case. And so, I sometimes wonder how aliens are lumped into other conspiracies, like with JFK or whatnot. One has nothing to do with the other. They're all fascinating and interesting, but or flat Earth theory. If the aliens guy, me, tells you that the Earth is not flat, please take that to the bank, because the Earth is round. We live on a sphere. Please, we are special enough. Our planet doesn't need to be a plate. So,
thank you so much for that particular and very timely perspective, and reminding us that bigger minds are not interested on the primitive minds. Now we're going to Argentina. We're going with Celi Frioni. It's a blogger from Argentina, and it's about series and TV shows. Let's go with Celi, please. Celi?
Hi, guys. Hi, Giorgio. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
I have one question. Maybe I'm gonna be a little rough with this, but if I Google meme, guy, and alien, we can see, I don't know if you can see this result.
Yes.
A lot of memes, and then your bio, which I know you kind of enjoy this because you usually post these memes on your social media. But with the years, you passed from being only a meme to the one of the most respected people inside your field on an international level, with many shows besides Ancient Aliens. Hope one day another book about that, and travels around the world that help you to show and prove your beliefs to people, which made them open their minds about aliens. How does it feel to go through all of this during these years? And do you have any advice for the ones that today are following your steps and look at you as a role model?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And the meme is something that grew organically. I had no control over it, and I embrace it, because I've always said that if Arnold Schwarzenegger has his phrase "I'll be back," and if Rocky Balboa or Sylvester Stallone has his Rocky hands, I'm good with my aliens hands. And as far as advice, read as much as you can, and start reading books. Those things behind me, those things with the pages and the paper, the books that don't run out of battery power. You can just read it, because oftentimes you will find old books like this that do not exist online or as a digital copy. So you still have to go sometimes to the library, or you still have to go somewhere to a bookstore and gain the knowledge that way.
So read as much as you can and amass as much knowledge as you can. And any advice to any of the young kids out there, stay in school. I mean, it sounds cliche, it sounds, old, but yes, stay in school, learn as much as you can, always expand your mind, always follow your heart, and don't let anybody tell you what to do. Within
And
reason,
wait,
of course.
when a book of Giorgio about aliens, I know you have another one, I see it over there, but when we can have a book of Giorgio?
When is coming your next book?
Oh, I will let you know.
I'm waiting for that.
You, Sally, and everyone else. So now we go. Thank you, Sally. Gracias. Now we go with Danny Phantom, another influencer, and this time from Venezuela. Danny Phantom. Well, meanwhile,
he has become
Danny
a phantom.
Yes, he's coming back. He's coming from Venezuela, so his connection is not necessarily the best one right now. But we're going with Marcos Almeida from a Ilha do Metal, Brazil.
Hi, Giorgio. Hi, Max. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Cesar. Giorgio, be welcome back to Brazil. My question is about the 200 programs that you perform. Okay, in these 14 years of program, what was the truest story that you experienced, and also another story that you find it's not so real, in your opinion? Okay, of course, could be the opposite in the real, but what is the most truest story that you find?
That's a great question, and thank you very much for asking that. So, personally, the one episode where I truly was blown away by what I saw with my own eyes was when we were in London, England, and we shot the crop circle episode. And there's a short segment, or there's one segment, one act, in which we are creating a crop circle on our own with a wooden board, and then also we then also compare that to the real crop circles. And the real crop circles, I was shown the elongation of the nodes, where a normal stalk of a wheat stalk would have, between the nodes would be about, or the nodes itself would be about this big. And inside the crop circle, the nodes have an elongation of up to 300%. Now, this is something that cannot be found in nature. So what happened there? How is this possible? And so the elongation of the nodes inside the crop circles, to me, is the best physical evidence that something exists here that we don't know what it is from the nature, as far as the understanding that we have of nature. So that is, to me, the most compelling. I mean, physical evidence. I mean, of course, physical evidence. It's the ancient structures that are the big megalithic buildings and all of this. But that is all, that is a question mark. The elongation of the nodes is not a question mark. It's right there. It's a receipt. So we just have to ask, who paid for this? Who paid the bill?
Oh, thanks for sharing. Thanks so much, Cesar.
Thank you, man. Muito obrigado, Dio. Now we are going with Danny Phantom from Venezuela.
Ahora sí.
All right, he's back.
Ahora sí me escuchan, ¿verdad? Sí.
Sí, claro.
Yes.
Dale.
Ok. Giorgio, un placer. ¿Cuál es tu opinión sobre las recientes revelaciones del gobierno de Estados Unidos con respecto a los avistamientos ovnis por parte de los militares y pilotos? ¿Qué impacto crees que pueda tener estas nuevas revelaciones sobre la sociedad en la percepción pública sobre los fenómenos ovnis?
Well, I think that these are the most incredible times to be alive in, and the fact that the U.S. government has held these congressional hearings is unprecedented. It has never happened before. And I think it is a part of this whole process of disclosure that we are in. Disclosure is a word that is used when one talks about this this official announcement that we are not alone in the universe. And disclosure is something that people thought may have been some type of a one-time press conference. But I think that disclosure is a process. It's a long-term process, and we are right in the middle of it, but we are more towards the actual disclosure time when they will say, okay, they're here. And I think that's already happened when David Grush came forward on this congressional hearing where he said under testimony that the US government is not only in possession of crashed extraterrestrial space, non-terrestrial spacecraft, but also in possession of non-human biologics. I mean, that alone should be the most incredible story of all time. But the fact of the matter is that the story came, and then the next few days, the story stuck around, and then the story went. So that means to me that worldwide, the planet will not freak out. The planet will not freak out in panic, because I think that it is inside of us that we intrinsically know that our true origin is not down here, it's out there. And so now these revelations or these truths are being revealed to us one by one. I think that soon enough, in the next 10 years or so, we are interacting with these extraterrestrial entities on a daily basis. That is my opinion. I don't know if this is true or will turn out, but I think that we are in this time when we will make official contact with extraterrestrials.
Thank you, Giorgio. Gracias, Panita. Saludos para Venezuela. Y ahora, now is the time to go with Tiago Tichetti. He's the publisher of UFO magazine from Brazil.
Hi, Tiago,
Hello,
my good friend. How are you?
How are you? Fine. How are you?
Good. Very
good to hear you, man. From the beginning of the show, 15 years. From the beginning of the show, 15 years ago to today, what has changed in your mind about the ancient astronaut theory?
That's a great question. And what has changed? The whole world has changed. The whole world is accepting what we are talking about, because both you and I and all the watchers right now know that 14, 15 years ago, everybody was always just laughing at us. And, you know, the ancient astronaut theory or UFO stories, oh, come on, it's all just fantasy. And here we are, 2 months later, after a congressional hearing in which David Grush has said that the US government has done or has performed a crash retrieval system and has actually gotten or has received or has captured extraterrestrial craft along with non-terrestrial biologics. I mean, this is stuff where I have to pinch myself, because 15 years ago, you know, these are stories that we said 15 years ago. Even with you, Tiago, 5 years in Brazil, 6 years, 7 years ago in Brazil, we were like, you know, we should really talk about this. How come the newspapers don't talk about it? And now they are. So I think we live in the most exciting of times. And what has changed is that more and more people, I think, have been watching Ancient Aliens. And so maybe they just started to ask more questions.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
And now we go back to Colombia. Jaime Ponce, he's from Caracol TV, Colombia, and he has a question for Giorgio.
Hola, Giorgio, y a todos, muchas gracias, muy amables por esta gran rueda de prensa.
Hola.
Mi pregunta es la siguiente, Giorgio. Hola. ¿Me escuchan?
Sí, perfecto. Vamos con la pregunta.
Yes.
Gracias. Mi pregunta es la siguiente, Giorgio, ¿has tenido alguna vez la oportunidad de ser testigo o partícipe de un evento en encuentro cercano de primero o segundo tipo? Y si has sentido algún cambio o algún momento sentiste que realmente tu vida cambió después de haber visto esto, haber sido protagonista de este tipo de eventos. Gracias.
So my life did not change because of the sightings, but it was certainly interesting. And yes, I have seen UFOs twice. One time in 2005 with a night vision quest, and then again in 2014, also with a night vision group. And in 2014, it was at 10 o'clock at night, where 30 of us looked at the night sky, including the Big Dipper. And the Big Dipper, most everybody knows what the Big Dipper looks like. It's a very easy constellation to identify. And usually the Big Dipper on the inside is dark. There are no stars on the inside of the 4 big stars of the Big Dipper. And that evening, there were 2 additional stars inside that Big Dipper, and 30 of us saw those 2 lights get brighter, get lower, brighter, lower, and then on the 3rd time of them getting brighter, those 2 lights start to move equidistant out of the Big Dipper, and then it just disappeared into space. It just disappeared. And, you know, the 30 of us saw this, and to this day, I have to wonder, what was that? And all I could wonder that evening before I went to bed was, you know, what did the pilots look like? So I'm still very fascinated by that evening. And, you know, so I think it's, you know, that's why I'm always curious about people who have seen things, because sometimes I now know myself what you see is incredibly strange.
In more ways than
Thank
one.
you. Thank you.
Thank you so much to both of you. Now we go to Brazil. Ederly Fortunato from Críticos Brazil.
Hello, thank you. Hi, George.
Hi.
Of course, the most exciting moment was the hearing when Americans recognized they have biologicals and some kind of remains of equipment. So what do you think they should have done? They should do? Should we have some multiple nationalities, scientists examining these remains so we could know what exactly they are? Because biologicals is a very wide definition. It could be anything. So what do you think we should have been doing?
Well, you know, I mean, so what exactly those non-biologicals are, you know, because some people have made the argument that, you know, a plant or non-human terrestrial, okay, or a biological. What is that? Because a plant can be a biological, or you know, a dog, for example. But I think that, you know, you don't have to really read between the lines to understand what is being meant here. I mean, these press releases are not in a foreign language, you know, because I don't think that when we talk about these things that we are referring to, you know, walking elephants on hind legs or something like that, but perhaps people that look like you and me. In fact, that is what the whole ancient astronaut theory has proposed since the beginning, that the extraterrestrials, you know, the big question is not, you know, do the extraterrestrials look like us, but do we look like the extraterrestrials? And so, you know, when they will show themselves publicly, I think the big surprise will be that we'll be looking at ourselves in the mirror. We are looking at ourselves. So, you know, I think regardless, we live in the most exciting times right now, because all of this stuff that we hoped would happen, i.e. congressional hearings, they are now happening. I mean, it's incredible. So the train has definitely left the station.
Thank you. And now we have a question from Cari De Llenaro. She's from the Roswell Institute and is coming from Argentina.
¿Qué tal? Hola Giorgio, hola a todos los que están en el panel. Soy de Neuquén, Patagonia, Argentina. Soy periodista de investigación científica ufológica. Estudié algunas ciencias para poder investigar este fenómeno, ya que acá en la Patagonia Argentina tenemos muchos casos, principalmente en la provincia de Neuquén, en donde vivo, en el norte. Estoy estudiando un caso en Colomichicó, que es un lugar en el norte neuquino llamado Las Ovejas, donde hay casos de contactismo, de abducciones. Hay también 860 piezas con petroglifos que muestran presencia del fenómeno ovni en la antigüedad. Yo, bueno, quiero preguntar, porque sé que a Giorgio le gusta todo lo que tiene que ver con lo antiguo, con la antigüedad, si ha recorrido esta zona para poder investigar y por qué cree que el fenómeno ovni tiene tanta actividad sobre la cordillera de los Andes, que es en los lugares a donde hemos visto, porque yo también he visto con mis propios ojos este fenómeno. El último avistamiento que tuve fue el 11 de enero del 2022, donde vi luces que giraban sobre el cerro en el Bolsón, en el cerro, ay, no me puedo acordar el nombre, pero bueno, es súper conocido. Y bueno, ¿por qué cree que este fenómeno tiene tanto avistamiento y actividad sobre la cordillera de los Andes?
Well, I think that the reason why the phenomenon exists today is because the phenomenon has existed there since times immemorial. I mean, the whole region has been visited since legends and mythologies have begun. In fact, we know that the entire Southern American continent is teeming with stories of gods descending from the sky and imparting knowledge. Just like in ancient Greece, gods descended from the sky and imparted knowledge, or in ancient India, we can read that someone descended and imparted knowledge. So, areas like Tiwanaku and Pumapunku and the Nazca lines and Paracas, the elongated skulls of Paracas, for example, Cusco, all those different areas of the world have this connection to a potential contact with what are referred to as gods, but the ancient Aslan theories suggests that gods never existed. Those gods were flesh and blood, extraterrestrial space travelers that our ancestors misinterpreted as so-called gods. And, South America is a treasure trove of all of these examples, and so is Europe, by the way. I have never said that only in South America did they have alien visitation. Also in Europe, North and South America, in Africa, in Australia, on all the continents all around the world. So.
Gracias, muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Giorgio. Now, Giorgio and Max, we have a very unique question to end this virtual press event. Pay attention to the question, listen carefully, and answer with sense of humor and with the witty touch that you have. You have said many times in front of us that aliens look like us or we look like aliens. So we want to know, if we want to prove that Giorgio is not an alien, what kind of proof you will give us that you are not an alien among us?
I'm just going to disappear. How can I prove that I'm not an alien? I'm stumped. I have no idea. Max, what do you say?
I'm not convinced that Giorgio is human, actually. I think there's, I've seen evidence that there could be something extraterrestrial in his nature, but so far I've not seen any skin peeled back to reveal reptilian underlayers or anything with black eyes.
Not yet.
Not yet.
The makeup artist we use is pretty awesome.
So I think,
and of course, if I had seen anything like that, I couldn't reveal that.
Of course. So we're going to leave that first time that we leave a question an answer in more ways than one. So it's going to be up to our audience to get their conclusions. Thank you so much, Giorgio, for being with us. Thank you, Max. And please tune in, every one of us, on this season 15, episode 2021, this week in Latin America of Ancient Aliens or Alienígenas Ancestrales. Giorgio, please, your last words to say goodbye and recommend not to miss any episode of Ancient Aliens on History, please.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for tuning into the new season of Ancient Aliens. And thank you for watching. I mean, without the viewers, the show would not be here. And I'm really stoked that together with Prometheus and with Max Thompson and the whole crew, we are allowed to bring you a whole new season of your favorite show. And in this season 2, we'll bring you things that you've never seen before. We'll revisit some of the old sites, and it'll promise to be one of the best seasons yet. You'll just have to tune in to the new season.
Thank you, Giorgio. Max, any final words from your end?
Just to reiterate what Giorgio said, we're so appreciative to have the fans with us all these years later and still watching. And every season, I think it just gets better. We still are finding fresh things to explore and new evidence and getting closer and closer to the truth.
And remember, guys, we're working with Giorgio and Max to bring Giorgio to Latin America on 2024. So stay tuned for more news. Gracias a todos, muito obrigado por todo y hasta la próxima. Gracias. Felicidades a todos.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
En muchos lugares de la Tierra existen impresionantes reliquias de épocas pasadas, construcciones imponentes que parecen desafiar la tecnología que hoy conocemos. Se abre un nuevo capítulo para descubrir las evidencias sobre seres de otros mundos que habitaron nuestro planeta por miles de años. Alienígenas Ancestrales. Por History.